Marvel's Insomniac Spider-Man 2 just dropped, and here are the things that I instantly noticed. Gameplay has taken a big step up when it comes to transversal gameplay for both Spider-Man, especially Peter, and the combat is amazing. I mean, after waiting years for this game, I was really ready to play it, especially when the first gameplay trailer came out. Like, bro, do you not see this? Would you not be excited for this as well? I even stayed home from school to play this game. Facts. And that's how you know a game is good and it's special. But sadly, that's not what I'm here to talk about today. I'll be saving my gameplay breakdown for another video. So a few hours before I had played Spider-Man 2, I decided to go back and play the first two games. Weeks before, and having replayed Miles Morales in Spider-Man 2018, I enjoyed the stories for both games respectively, and since Spider-Man 2 had a lot of hype, I expected the story to be better than both of those games. But sadly, I'm coming here with some bad news, and I've kind of concluded that the story in Spider-Man 2 is a bit lacking. And before all you fanboys come to my comments raging about what I just said, take a chill pill and calm down. I'd appreciate it if you guys were to actually listen to my reasoning first before you guys start critiquing and going crazy. Also remember, I'm the Spider-Man expert here, not you. So I just like to specify that I like the opening for the game, and to be honest, at first I didn't like the Sandman fight, but it's grown on me a lot. From Peter having a job to Miles being his student, and all the new dynamics that form from that, it makes their lives, despite the Spider-Man stuff obviously, seem more interconnected than ever. Another thing I liked was how we saw younger Peter in this game, because one of the questions, or one of the things that, I mean, isn't an issue, but I wish we had some of it in the first game, was to show us some of how this Peter in this universe came about being Spider-Man. We were kind of pushed into an experience Spider-Man's life without really knowing much about him. So the fact that the game does this clears up a lot of things, and especially the Aunt May flashbacks, which we'll go over a little later. Kraven as a villain is the cause of a lot of things, and as a result of this, a lot of good things come out of it. So to be honest, I can't really complain about Kraven a lot, but I did think they did a good job of making him seem like a threat. Well, besides that one thing, but we'll get to that later. But like every good thing, Spider-Man 2 has its fair share of problems too. So now that we've gone over the positives and things that I liked about the story, let's get into the negatives. And sadly to say, there's a lot of them. Peter in this game is terrible as a main character. When Kraven arrives and starts killing multiple major Sinister Six villains, Peter doesn't bat an eye, which kind of feels out of character for him. This also happens when he sees the symbiote on Harry for the first time. So, I mean, I don't know, man. Also, Insomniac does a disservice to the past Spider-Man villains of this universe by having Kraven kill a lot of them off screen. I get that us hearing about the action is enough for Kraven to be considered a threat, but come on, wouldn't you think it would be a little bit better to put that final nail in the coffin for us to fear Kraven? I feel like Peter Parker is always depicted to be a very intelligent character, so the fact that he wasn't skeptical at all towards the black goo that's suddenly giving his best friend the ability to fight on his level is crazy to me. And the fact that Peter Parker literally does not question anything that seems wrong that's going on is also wild to me, even when Harry first arrived. Especially when in the first game, once he saw the Neuralink on Doc's arms might cause some damaging effects to the brain, he pointed it out and he was skeptical of it. So I don't understand why here he kind of regressed in terms of intellect, but whatever. Another big problem, arguably the biggest problem, is how Peter gets the symbiote. A knife to the stomach? Come on, Insomniac. Getting stabbed is something that is out of character for Spider-Man. He would be able to sense it from miles away. Compare this to when he gets jumped in the first game by all the Sinister Six. The difference between that scene and this scene is that it shows in this one specifically how much of a threat both sides were to each other in that instance. Yes, I did say Kraven for the most part is a good villain, but these little things are things that I caught up on. We should have been able to fight Kraven right here because of the fact that we see from both sides that one is trying to catch the other off guard. More Kraven than Peter, but you get what I mean. But you know what also just amazes me? Especially when Peter has spider sense, how is he not able to sense a knife coming right there? Man, this is another big problem is Miles. He was MIA when Peter had gained the symbiote. So I don't know what the purpose of having Miles in the story was, if they were just gonna leave him out like this, but we'll get more into that later. Wouldn't Kraven be a bigger threat if he defeated Miles and Peter earlier in the game, and then he had to fight a more aggressive, different Peter later? Wouldn't it come back full circle better? Why leave out Miles in such a pivotal moment of the story and have him doing stupid side quests? I think honestly it robbed us of some seriously needed character development and dynamics between all three of them, Kraven, Peter, and Miles. Then another problem I have with Miles in this game is his dynamic with Venom and Harry. There's not really much of a connection there. I feel like Insomniac had a chance for this to be a cool dynamic since we never really seen something like this in the comics, but obviously they fell flat. And Miles only met Harry once, so once we fight Venom as Miles at the end of the game, it just kind of feels very awkward. Even the dialogue is just, it just sucks. Like,
I made a promise, Harry, that I'd fight for you.
You don't care about us. You don't know us.
I know you talk to your mom, just like I talked to my dad. Remember? What's she saying right now?
in honesty, it just feels like Insomniac didn't know what to do with Miles in this game. So they ended up having a forced conflict between him and Mr. Negative. Which, I don't know, wouldn't you think they should have done this in Miles' game if they intended this to be a part of his arc? I mean, I don't know what they were thinking. Honestly, if you were to remove Miles from the entire story, his playability, and focus on Venom and Peter's dynamic and everyone else, it literally wouldn't change much about the story. And honestly, I kind of preferred if he was left out. MJ too, along with Miles, but it's worse. Another thing that really got me upset about Kraven as a villain was how Insomniac clearly gives plot armor to some of the weakest characters and it doesn't make sense. And not only does this make Kraven seem like a worse villain, but it just diminishes his abilities as a whole. You really want me to believe that Kraven defeated Peter but didn't see Mary Jane sneaking in the background, who has no powers, just running around? And another thing I really didn't like about the story was the Green Goblin setup. I've heard a lot of people say that the setup for the Green Goblin was done well, but I firmly disagree. I'm a stern believer in the idea of villains having realistic motives, and Norman Osborn blaming Peter for Harry's stale state is very dumb in my opinion. That is stupid. For more context, after Peter and Miles defeat Harry, Harry goes into basically somewhat like a coma, and then Norman Osborn, looking for Harry after he emerged as Venom, finds him on a stretcher next to both of the Spider-Men and tries to blame them for why Harry's in that condition.
Harry.
Pulse is weak. We gotta move.
What have you done?
What have you done to him?
I'm sorry.
I'm coming with you, wait.
It was mostly Norman's fault for Harry's condition. He was the one who decided to expose his son to an alien, which ultimately led to Harry's demise. And this is my biggest gripe of all. Spider-Man 2 is missing a lot of the emotional beats that Spider-Man 2018 had, and even Miles Morales had. I saw a TikTok on this same topic and I couldn't disagree. If you were to watch and play the Peter vs. Otto fight and compare it to the Peter vs. Venom fight, you'd feel way more emotional attachment to the first one. A lot of this is because what I mentioned earlier with Miles Morales and him being there to fight Venom 2. It honestly makes the fight way worse than it would have been. But to be honest, I think this is solely off writing and just the screenplay. In the Otto fight, you could just tell Peter was heavily disappointed by his mentor's actions, but because he's Spider-Man, he has to make those tough calls. Which, in the Harry fight, it's missing this emotion because a lot of that disappointment really wasn't set up well in the story.
We have to do what's best for those beneath us, whether they understand it or not.
No, you're wrong! You are everything I wanted to be!
And a lot of the disappointment wouldn't be on Harry's fault. It would be for Norman, not really Harry. While Otto is the one solely responsible for his actions, Harry's not really responsible for a lot of his actions. So the story kind of sets its climax up for a huge failure. And I'm fine with changing things to fit a certain version of a character as long as that change is executed well. And I feel like these changes weren't executed well at all. Speaking of something that is executed well, even the Peter vs. Miles fight is better than the final battle in my opinion. way better, because we get to explore a lot of Peter's mental state and what he's hiding inside, whether it's insecurities about his life, or like I said I was going to come back to earlier, him being sad about his aunt. And even after Miles has to save Peter and he gets him out, he goes into Peter's mind state and he's able to see how he's thinking. And this is when he realizes that Peter has a lot of baggage and things inside that he doesn't really show. And I question, why didn't we get this in the final battle? Like, why? In conclusion, while Marvel Spider-Man 2 showcases some improvements in gameplay, I feel like the story just falls short of expectations. Yes, the symbiote was good for the time that it was there. Yes, Anti-Venom was really good, and I really liked Anti-Venom, by the way, but everything else to me just was not that good, man. To be honest, I heard a lot of other YouTubers say this, and I agree. This story at face value could have been really good, and it had a lot of good ideas, but the characters undermine these ideas, and the worst part about this story are the characters. But, you know, that's just how I feel, and I'm out.